All right, welcome back to another episode of Backstage Safari. I'm Matt Gebhardt.
And I'm Jacob Oline with 6 News, and we are here with Greg, the senior aquarist here at the Cameron Park Zoo. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're about to show us?
Yeah, so this is our big flower garden tank. So our flower garden tank has roughly 30,000 gallons of water in it. All of this is salt water, so this is all going to be native to our Texas coastline. It's named after a marine preserve off the coast of Galveston. The flower garden banks is something we share with Louisiana. We have 5 notable animals in here that I'm going to tell you a bit more about in here. There's a ray, there's some bony fish, stuff like that, but really just native species.
All right, let's get started. Thanks, Greg.
Yep. Okay, so we do have 5 animals that I'm going to be talking about today. So first off is Rick. Rick up here is a southern stingray. So he is a male. Now that's important because his species do look different for the male and the female. The males are drastically smaller, so he is smaller. He won't grow super, super big like any of the females of his species would. This is Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss is a black drum. Now they're called that actually because they can create a drumming sound with their swim bladder. They vibrate it with special muscles right around it, and it sounds, I've actually heard it before, it sounds like someone tapping a cane really hard. Now we also have, now I have to find animals. So
what is the purpose of the drum?
So it's communication in between each other, but also communication with other species in regards to here's food, this is my area, stuff like that. Here's food. So this lady with her face against the wall, she likes to chat with her friend Stevie. So the porcupine pufferfish, her name is Jean. So Jean is a very large puffer. Most of them do not get that large. Most of them are going to be smaller. But porcupine puffers are on average some of the largest pufferfish. And she is a full-grown adult. So she does get pretty big. And then morays are a little derpy sometimes. I promise she's okay. But she's leaning over a little bit. This is Stevie. So this is a spotted moray. And like I said, all 4 of these so far, you can find these in the Caribbean and the Gulf. So all these are native species. But Stevie is a spotted moray. Spotted morays are really cool because, well, morays in general, because they actually have 2 sets of jaws. They have a jaw in the front with sharp needle-like teeth to protect themselves. And then they have the jaw in their throat. So that second jaw, because these guys, it takes a lot of energy to swim, and these guys are not strong swimmers. They have to undulate like a snake in water. It takes a lot of energy. Is what they'll do is they'll grab a hold of their food, and when they need to readjust to swallow, instead of potentially losing that food, that second jaw will come up through the throat and grab the food, pull it further down, and they kind of conveyor belt it down the throat. So that way they're making sure they're not losing out on any food items. And then finally, this one's going to be the tricky one to find. We have Carl. Carl is a boxfish. Give me a moment. I sometimes have to search for him. Oh, there he is. So Carl is a boxfish. So boxfish are known, one of the species, longhorn cowfish, has even longer horns, but they're known for their horns. So those horns are what you want to pay attention to, especially whenever you're keeping them in human care, because if they get injured, if they get sick, anything like that, they can actually release a toxin from those horns that can affect things around them, other fish and stuff like that. So, I mean, everyone's health is very important to us, but his most especially because he can affect his tank mates.
Speaking of that, you know, everyone who's trying to have an aquarium at home, sometimes you realize certain fish don't get along. Mm-hmm. What goes into that to make sure that everybody here coexists peacefully and safely?
Well, first off, we make sure that no one's bite size. So everything in here has to be of a certain size to really live in this big exhibit. The size of the exhibit's also really helping as well because it gives everyone their own territory. Doesn't make them infringe on each other's territory all that much, but we're also making sure that nothing that is outright a prey fish or a predator is in here, with the exception of, say, elasmobranchs. So elasmobranchs are going to be sharks and rays and stuff, but those we're also very carefully monitoring their food intake and all of that. Basically, the way it works is they're opportunistic predators, and that means that they're not going to go out of their way and waste energy to try to hunt something when they know a nice, easy meal is coming their way at a very regular basis. So why spend the energy if I'm going to give him I know offhand 283 grams of fish 4 times a week. There's no point for him to try to hunt anything. So we're swaying the predators away from wasting that energy. They think they need to save it. In reality, they don't. But so it's a bunch of different variables and factors.
And the moray eel plays along with that too? Is that a misconception that they're big predators?
So they are territorial around their face. She does not move all that much. So she does have a territory. All the fish respect it. It's just right around her face. She stays over there. Whenever I feed her, she will come up to a little barrel that was in the water right here. She reacts to certain things. So what a lot of people don't realize is you can train to eat as long as there's food involved. So I do have the moray eel and the ray tap training. So the ray gets 5 taps. He comes up to what we call howlies, a mesh basket basically, so that no other fish are picking up the food while I'm offering it to that animal. And then Stevie, the moray eel, she gets 3 taps. So other than being up there, eating her food up there, that area, that's Stevie's. No one else infringes on that. Everyone plays happy.
Very cool. Would you mind showing us?
Yeah, for sure.
All right.
All right, so we're right above that 30,000 gallon tank I was telling you about, that flower garden bank. So this is all the fish that you were seeing down below. So a few of our fish are howdy trained, and I think I forgot to set that word downstairs. So this is a howdy. So it's just a mesh basket that we put in the water. They come into the basket and they get fed in there. Not only does that help us control what they're getting fed and how much they're getting fed, but also it helps us for just general welfare. So if I have to get one of these animals out, we don't have to send a diver in with a net to chase them down. I just put this in there, they come in, and we're able to reclaim them that way, and we're able to put them in one of our off exhibit tanks, or maybe it goes up to the vet hospital or something like that. Now, we all never wish that type of situation, but it's always helpful if something comes up that we're able to do something like that. So this is Carl's howdy, the boxfish, and then this is going to be the target for Stevie, the moray eel. So they both eat over here, and then once I'm done with that, I'm going to be doing something called a broadcast feed. So a broadcast feed is very simple. It's just me throwing food over the water. A lot of these animals are not target trained or anything like that. They just eat it as it falls down. And then I'm going to be going over to that side, and then right next to you, sir, is Rick's howdy. So that one is open at the bottom because he is able to come and go. It just protects his sides from anything that slumps up. Rays are pretty good at controlling where their food might be dropping, so I just slip it under his rostrum, which is his nose area, and he's able to suction onto the wall and make sure he doesn't lose any of that food, but that just protects him a little bit more. So I'm going to start, because Stevie's been having a habit of coming up without me asking. I'm going to start by placing her target right there. Now, moray eels, I talked about their teeth downstairs. They have a lot of teeth and they have 2 sets of jaws. So I don't mess around with trying to hand feed a moray eel or anything like that. So I do have tongs to feed her. But then we're going to start with Carl. If you can see, so Carl's in this basket right here. I've got some food for him to eat. Sometimes I end up going to the restaurant, give him an opportunity to make sure that he takes his food before anything else has an option to actually eat that. And he's a slow eater, so his pieces are very small, but he also has a very small mouth. If the piece is a little big, he'll chew, spit back out, and chew some more.
I noticed a lot of fish that were at the bottom made their way towards the top. When you got here, do they know that it's feeding time? Can they tell just by your presence what's about to happen?
So they do react to color in a way. It differs on each species as to how they really react and interpret that color, or if they can even interpret that color in general. Some less complex species, I'll say that, sometimes have some issues with even interpreting color. They might not be able to see certain wavelengths or things like that. but they definitely react to me being up here. I don't know if it's the shirt color, if it's just the movement, but even when I walk up here, just when I'm checking on things, when I'm doing maintenance, stuff like that, when we have divers, we definitely have some interest at the top. All right, well done. Come on. All right, so next up we've got Stevie. This one takes a little bit to come over. So like I was showing you downstairs, if you kind of had a bearing of where we are, her hiding spot was all the way over here, so she does come over here. She swims the full length of the exhibit. Now moray eels also have a very slow metabolism. With not having to swim around, chase down their food, stuff like that. Sometimes they will skip a meal and stuff like that. So it's not a big deal. We are not particularly worried. In the wild, they would definitely eat less food than they're getting with us. However, or less often, I should say, but each meal would be way more than what they're getting. So what we're doing is we're splitting it out more evenly. Not only does that aid in proper metabolism, but it helps in constant nutrient levels throughout their body from time to time. So sometimes I do get a miss from her. But we'll go to Rick, our southern ray, right after I do our broadcast. So like I was saying, our broadcast is very simple. I just throw it out. They eat off the broadcast. Now these animals that I'm spot feeding, they definitely eat off the broadcast too. Carl definitely isn't as quick, so he's getting less, so that's part of the reason why we do train him to go into that basket. At some point, we might even have Gene, our pufferfish, basket trained as well, but that's something for the future. And a little bit about what they're eating if you were curious. So today we have some smelt. I chop it up into small pieces. We also have some peat krill, just a tiny little shrimp-like creature. And then of course they do have veggies. We have some lettuce, and then I believe we have squash. Yeah, there's some squash buried in there too. So we do have some omnivores, carnivores, and herbivores in here. Earlier today, I start out my day by feeding nori sheets, so what you might wrap sushi in. They get 6 nori sheets in the morning, just so that they have a little bit of vegetation to eat throughout the day. All right, we're gonna go do Rick. Grab this. Oh, are you ready already? So he's already ready. So with some animals, it's very important that our diet match what they might get in the wild. And sometimes what we give in regards to frozen food might not necessarily match that exactly. So he is getting a vitamin inside that piece of food. Chill. He is very food motivated. He does a little jump, then I push up his rostrum. That's this area right here, if you can see it on camera. And he and his relatives, the sharks, they have this very cool thing around their rostrum. They have little things called ampullae of Lorenzini. That allows them to sense electricity running through their prey's nervous system. So it doesn't necessarily matter if their prey is hiding. They can actually sense them, kind of like a biological metal detector, if you will. So they don't have to play it to chance. Now, if you've ever seen a ray at an aquarium, you might have seen the underside, and it kind of looks like it's a smiley face with no little nostrils on the bottom. So if you're looking at them on the bottom, that's their mouth, and then their gills. Now you might have noticed that they have little holes behind their eyes as well. I know. On the wall. You might have noticed that they have little holes behind their eyes as well. Those are called spiracles. So spiracles allow them to respirate or breathe. because they are taking oxygen from the water, not from the air, but it allows them to get oxygen without lifting up their entire body, because these guys sometimes hide underneath the sand or stuff like that. That way they can not only hide from predators, but also be predators themselves. And that allows them to get that oxygen while they're hiding, because otherwise their gills are right up on the sand. They're not going to be able to breathe all that well. You lost one, dude. And you can see he's, other than that one that kind of flew away, he's pretty good at reclaiming it if he loses it from underneath him. But this basket is to protect him from, notably, I will say, the threat is Jean, all the way over here attacking the lettuce ferociously. So she comes up to the side, she sees any movement of any piece of food, she's like, oh, I want in on that. She might come up, and that'll not only be a danger to me, but also a nuisance and a danger to Rick. So this is to protect him, but also to make sure that we're watching his food intake. Sometimes we do have a little break right there. He goes, chews it up. He's got it all in his mouth right now, so he might go away a little bit, kind of digest a little, take a breather, move around, see if there's anything interesting, see if there's anything else that he'd like to eat down there. But then he will come back up to finish off his meal after he does a little victory lap. Oh, that's a small victory lap, dude. Oh, lost one. Shot handful? No, another victory lap. So I never make any animal eat any more food than what they want. If they tell me they're done, they swim off, we're all done. I just know he does little victory laps and he'll come back, so I know we can do a little more. No? Are we all done? And with such a small handful, I don't want anything to go to waste, so I will just generally broadcast this if he passes me a third time. His tank mates can finish off his food. Oh, no? You wanted to finish? Boy. Alright.
Well, thank you very much. This was very informative and a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah. I apologize we didn't get Stevie up here, but like I said, every now and then you get a miss, so.
Greg, thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Yeah.